All right, it's now time where we have discussions or interviews with our guests here on Breakfast Live in the chat room. My name is Elvis Oho. I'm joined by a lady here, Cecellia Matthews, and she's here to talk about psychotherapy. A very good morning to you, Cecellia, and welcome to Breakfast Live.
Good morning, Elvis.
Okay. First things first, what is psychotherapy?
So psychotherapy is a term that describes a process where a psychotherapist, which is a person that's trained to be a psychotherapist, takes through a client, any other person, through processing feelings, thoughts, and behaviors that are leading into an overwhelming situation.
Okay.
So it's mostly misthought of with psychiatry, where psychiatry is also a treatment of mental health illnesses or disorders, but using medical management.
Okay.
In psychotherapy, you only use talk. So in simple terms, it's called talk therapy.
Talk therapy.
Yes.
Why is it necessary for one to go through the process?
So one of the things that we mostly don't spend time thinking about is our minds.
Okay.
And then how that relates to overall productivity and success in life and in day-to-day living. So I'll talk about the human mind, which is 60% subconscious. So the conscious is what we're doing now, what keeps us active, critical thinking. But when you come to the subconscious, and the conscious is only 10% of our mind. In the subconscious, you'd want to think about it as a bank, where we deposit all of the thoughts and the behaviors that we go through are then a reflect of what is deposited in the subconscious. So you find somebody to say, well, I'm stressed, or somebody has a disorder, for example, post-traumatic stress disorder, but they carry on with their life every day because they're saying, I'm busy, I have to be productive at work, I have to be productive at school. But taking that time out to go through sessions and address the issues that are going through their mind that would overall impact on their productivity is something that we don't regard, and mostly in the African context.
Okay, fine. What's the problem with African context? Is it?
So, like I put it, I would say it's our perception, but also how we've been brought up to think of, if I have a problem, well, I'm going to sit down and I'll think about it myself, or I'll just cry it out. But when you look at, if we're assessing a person as a whole and how the situations that they're going through, and for example, depression, how is it affecting your work? How is it affecting your education? We don't put much emphasis to put that assessment scale to see, is this leading to me not performing well? Is this leading to me being unhappy and grumpy most of the times? So we just focus on, well, I have to make money, I have to go to work, I have to excel at school. But in the back of the mind, we're dealing with so many things as humans. We're dealing with so many issues.
Okay. Who needs psychotherapy?
So I would say everyone that has an overwhelming situation. So people would actually think, well, somebody that has to be by the bedside, or somebody that's sick, but it's usually somebody that has an overwhelming situation. So I'll talk about, for example, post-traumatic stress disorder. When, for example, you have a burglary at home, and then children in the middle of the night, they experience and they saw that, as much as you're trying to hide them or shield them from seeing what's happening. Then later on, after some years, you find a child with a simple knock on the door, a child is screaming. So you wonder, how do you behave like that? It's something that started with the time that they witnessed a burglary. So after some traumatic events or stressful situations, you have to process your thoughts. So it's a balance between dealing with what's in your subconscious and your conscious. That would make you productive. I'll talk about depression. I'll talk about eating disorders. Are you aware that we have eating disorders?
No, what's an eating disorder?
So eating disorders, we have bulimia and anorexia nervosa, where somebody would eat a lot of things, then they would put the finger in the throat and they would throw up. So that's a disorder. We have obsessive compulsive disorders, OCD, where a person has repetitive obsessive thoughts and behaviors. So like now, if we were just chatting, I would go to my car maybe 3 times just to check to be sure that I locked it. That's a disorder, OCD. Or I would just be taking a Western and wiping all over and over same place. So these are the things that we don't really notice, but they're things that consume our time, affects our productivity, and overall success of a person.
Okay, fine. So how does one benefit from psychotherapy?
So psychotherapy is more related to emotional development. Emotional development meaning to say, well, when the senses, the information that we get from our senses, if I'm seeing you like this, the messages that I'm getting goes to a part of the brain that deals with emotions. From there, it's transferred to another place in your cortex that deals with intellect. So there is emotional quotient and intellectual content, EQ and IQ. So, for example, if you go in an exam, and then you see an invigilator handing you over a pamphlet, a 7-page pamphlet, examination paper, obviously your thoughts are going to be, wow, this is a difficult exam. What if it's only one paper that has printed question and the other ones are blank? So what we're trying to say is how you are aware of your emotions and your thoughts, and then how you understand those and manage them is emotional development.
Okay.
So psychotherapy feeds into that.
So do we have systems in place, for instance, in Malawi, or do we have psychotherapists where people can go to? Do they need to pay? What do they need to do to get such assistance?
So it's just like how you'd book for any other clinic. Yeah, so as counselors, whether you're practicing at a medical institution or a standalone practitioner, private practice, you people know your practice, and then they'll have to make a booking, and obviously you fill in a consent form where you're ensuring the client that there's big confidentiality, because you don't want to talk to me if I'm going to make known your issues all over. So after that, then you schedule a session. The first session that you'll have with a counselor, a psychotherapist, is an assessment session where I'm trying to understand your needs and what has brought you to come to see me. Then the other sessions consecutively, we're building up on that. Sometimes you can have a one-stop session depending on the issue, or sometimes it can be a multiple of sessions.
So these people, these professions, or these professionals, are they found in hospitals? Where?
Well, in hospitals, yes.
They're there?
Yeah, in hospitals and
Okay.
private practice.
Okay.
Like I do private practice,
Okay.
but there are people that are also found in hospitals,
Okay.
because it's more related also to how one would react to medication and overall health.
Okay, fine. So does a psychotherapist need psychotherapy?
Obviously.
Okay. You get some yourself?
So a psychotherapist is also
Yeah?
is also a person.
Okay, fine.
So there are times when you also experience overwhelming situation, and you'll have to knock on the door of a fellow counselor that will take you through your emotions and process them for you to be productive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cecellia Matthews, thank you very much for coming through to Breakfast Live.
Thank you, Elvin.
All right. That's a psychotherapist, Cecellia Matthews. She was here to talk about psychotherapy, the importance of psychotherapy in our day-to-day lives. But Breakfast Live continues. Let's now take a look at what's happening in Zomba because water. Let's first of all hear, and he'll be talking about the southern region.